Thank you for joining me. I'm going to continue reading from Ralph Waldo Emerson's book, Manners, Essays Written in the 1800s, which was in the 19th century. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to join me as I read this amazing book. Please feel free to leave your insights, your thoughts, your comments in the comment section down below. What do you think of my reading style? What do you think of the ideas I'm sharing in this book? Please leave your comments, your thoughts, your feedback. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And please press the like or dislike button. It is very much appreciated and it helps me a lot to get this book out further and help more people. I'm going to continue on page 391 from this amazing book. In the paragraph, the compliment. The compliment of this graceful self-respect and that of all the points of good breeding I most require and insist upon is deference. I like that every chair should be a throne and hold a king. I prefer a tendency to stateliness to an excess of fellowship. Let the incommunicable objects of nature and the metaphysical isolation of man teach us independence. Let us not be too much acquainted. I would have a man enter his house through a hall filled with heroic and sacred sculptures, that he might not want the hint of tranquility and self-poise. We should meet each morning as from foreign countries, and spending the day together should depart at night as into foreign countries. In all things, I would have the island man inviolate. Let us sit apart as the gods, talking from peak to peak all round Olympus. No degree of affection need invade his religion. This myrrh and rosemary to keep the others sweet. Lovers should guard their strangeness. If they forgive too much, all slides into confusion and meanness. It is easy to push this deference to a Chinese etiquette, but coolness and absence of heat and haste indicate fine qualities. I'm going to repeat that because I didn't read it correctly. It is easy to push this deference to a Chinese etiquette, but coolness and absence of heat and haste indicate fine qualities. A gentleman makes no noise. A lady is serene. Proportionate is our disgust of those invaders who fill a studious house with blast and running to secure some paltry convenience. Not less I dislike a low sympathy of each with his neighbor's needs. Must we have a good understanding with one another's need, with one another's? I'm going to repeat that. Not less I dislike a low sympathy of each with his neighbor's needs. Must we have a good understanding with one another's palates? As foolish people who have lived long together know when each wants salt or sugar. I pray my companion, if he wishes for bread, to ask me for bread, and if he wishes for sassafras or arsenic, to ask me for them, and not to hold out his plate as if I knew already. Every natural function can be dignified by deliberation and privacy. Let us leave hurry to slaves. The compliments and ceremonies of our breeding should recall, however remotely, the grandeur of our destiny. A flower of courtesy does not very well bite handling. But if we dare to open another leaf and explore what parts go to its confirmation, we shall find also an intellectual quality. To the leaders of men, the brain, as well as the flesh and the heart, must furnish a proportion. Defect in manners is usually the defect of fine perceptions. Men are too coarsely made for the delicacy of beautiful carriage and customs. It is not quite sufficient to good breeding. A union of kindness and independence. We imperatively require a perception of and a homage to beauty in our companions. Other virtues are in request in the field and work yard, but a certain degree of taste is not to be spared in those who sit with, and those we sit with. I could better eat with one who did not respect the truth or the laws than with a sloven and unrepresentable person. Moral qualities rule the world, but at short distances the senses are despotic. The same discrimination of fit and fear runs out, if with less rigor, into all parts of life. The average spirit of the energetic class is good sense, acting under certain limitations and to certain ends. It entertains every natural fit, every natural gift, social in its nature. It respects everything which tends to unite men. It delights in measure. The love of beauty is mainly the love of measure or proportion. The person who screams or uses a superlative degree or converses with heat puts whole drawing rooms to flight. If you wish to be loved, love measure. You must have genius or prodigious usefulness if you will hide the want of measure. This perception comes in to polish and perfect the parts of the social instrument. Society will pardon much to genius and special gifts, but being in its nature a convention, it loves what is conventional or what belongs to coming together. That makes the good and bad of manners, namely what helps or hinders fellowship. For fashion is not good sense absolute, but relative. Not good sense private, but good sense entertaining company. It hates corners and sharp points of a character. Hates quarrelsome, egotistical, solitary, and gloomy people. Hates whatever can interfere with total blending of parties, while it values all peculiarities as in the highest degree refreshing, which can consist with good fellowship and besides the general infusion of wit to heighten civility. The direct splendor of intellectual power is ever welcome in fine society as the costliest addition to its rule and its credit. The dry light must shine in to adorn our festival, but it must be tempered and shaded, or that will also offend. Accuracy is essential to beauty, and quick perception to politeness, but not to quick perceptions. One may be too punctual and too precise. He must leave the omniscience of business at the door when he comes into the place of beauty. Society loves Creole natures and sleepy, languishing manners, so that they cover sense, grace, and goodwill. The ear of drowsy strength, which is arms criticism. Perhaps because such a person seems to reserve himself for the best of the game, and not spend himself on surfaces. An ignoring eye, which does not see the annoyances, shifts, and inconveniences that cloud the brow and smother the voice of the sensitive. Therefore, besides personal force in so much perception as confusion, therefore, besides personal force and so much perception as constitutes unerring taste, society demands in its patrician class another element already intimated, which is significantly terms good nature, expressing all degrees of generosity, from the lowest willingness and faculty to oblige up to the highest of magnanimity and love. Insight we must have, or we shall run against one another and miss the way to our food. But intellect is selfish and barren. The secret of success in society is a certain heartiness and sympathy. A man who is not happy in the company cannot find any word in his memory that will fit the occasion. All information is a little impertinent, A man who is happy there finds in every turn of the conversation equally lucky occasions for the introduction of that which he has to say. The favorites of society and what it calls whole souls are able men and of more spirit than wit. We have no uncomfortable egotism, but who exactly fill the hour and the company, contented and contenting, at a marriage or a funeral, a ball or a jury, a water party or a shooting match. England, which is rich in gentlemen, furnished in the beginning of the present century, a good model of that genius which the world loves. In Mr. Fox, who added to his great abilities the most social disposition and real love of men, parliamentary history has few better passages than the debate in which Burke and Fox separated in the House of Commons, when Fox urged on his old friends the claims of old friendship with such tenderness that the House was moved to tears. Another anecdote is so close to any matter, is so close to my matter, that I must hazard a story. A tradesman who had long dunned him for a note of 300 guineas found him one day counting gold and demanded payment. Quote, no, end quote, says Fox. Quote, I owe this money to Sheridan. It is a debt of honor. If an accident should happen to me, he has nothing to show. End quote. Quote, then, end quote, said the creditor. Quote, I changed my debt into a debt of honor, end quote, and tore the note in pieces. Fox thanked the man for his confidence and paid him, saying, quote, his debt was of older standing, and Sheridan must wait, end quote. Lover of liberty, friend of the Hindu, friend of the African slave, he possessed a great personal popularity, and Napoleon said of him on the occasion of his visit to Paris in 1805, quote, Mr. Fox will always hold the first place in an assembly at the Tuileries, end quote. We may easily seem ridiculous in our eulogy of courtesy whenever we insist on benevolence as its foundation. The painted phantasm fashion rises to cast a species of derision on what we say, but I will either be driven from some allowance to fashion as a symbolic intuition, nor from the belief that love is the basis of courtesy. We must obtain that if we can. But by all means, we must affirm this. Life owes much of its spirit to these sharp contrasts. Fashion, which affects to be honor, is often, in all men's experience, only a ballroom code. Yet so long as it is the highest circle in the imagination of the best heads of the planet, there is something necessary and excellent in it. For it is not to be supposed that men have agreed to be the dupes of anything preposterous, and the respect which these mysteries inspire in the world, inspire in the most rude and sylvan characters, and the curiosity with which details of high life are read, betray the universality of the love and the cultivated manners. I know that a comic disparity would be felt if we should enter the acknowledged first circles and apply these terrific standards of justice, beauty, and benefit to the individuals actually found there monarchs and heroes, sages and lovers. These gallants are not. Fashion has many classes and many rules of probation and admission, and not the best alone. There is not only the right of conquest, which genius pretends, the individual demonstrating is natural aristocracy, best of the best, but less claims will pass for the time. For fashion loves lions and points like Circe to her hornet company. This gentleman in this afternoon arrived from Denmark, and that is my Lord Wright, who came yesterday from Baghdad. Here is a Captain Fries from Cape Turnigan, and Captain Cinnabis from the interior of the earth, and Monsieur Jouvere, who came down this morning in a balloon, Mr. Hobnail, the reformer, and Reverend Jewel Bate, who has converted the whole torrid zone in a Sunday school, and Signore del Grasso, who extinguished Vesuvius by pouring into it the Bay of Naples, Svai, the Persian ambassador, and Tulwil Shun, the exiled Nabob of Nepal, whose saddle is the new moon. But these are monsters of one day, and tomorrow will be dismissed to their holes and dens. For in these rooms every chair is waited for the artist, scholar, and in general the clerisy. The clerisy. The clerisy win their way up into these places and get represented here, somewhat on this footing of conquest. Another mode into pass through all the degrees, spending a year and a day in St. Michael's Square, being steeped in cold water and perfumed and dined, and introduced and properly grounded in all the biography and politics and anecdotes of the boudoirs. Yet these fineries may have grace and wit. Let them be grotesque sculpture about the gates and offices of temples. Let the creed and commandments even have the saucy homage of parody. The forms of politeness universally express benevolence in superlative degrees. What if they are in the mouths of selfish men and used as a means of selfishness? What if the fool's gentleman almost bows to the truth out of the world? What if the gentleman contrives so to address his companion as civilly to exclude all others from his discourse, and also to make them feel excluded? Real service will not lose its nobleness. All generosity is not merely French and sentimental, nor is it to be concealed. That living blood and a passion of kindness does at last distinguish God's gentlemen from fashions. The the epitaph of Sir Juncan Grout is not wholly unintelligible to the present age. Quote, here lies Sir Juncan Grout, who loves his friend and persuaded his enemy. What his mouth ate, he had paid for. What his servants robbed, he restored. If a woman gave him pleasure, he supported her in pain. He never forgot his children, and who touched his finger, drew after it his whole body. End quote. Even the line of heroes is not utterly extinct. There is still ever some admirable person in plain clothes, standing on the wharf, who jumps in to rescue a drowning man. There is still some absurd inventor of charities, some guide and comforter of runaway slaves, some friend of Poland, some Philly Lean, some some fanatic who plants shade trees for the second and third generation, and orchards when he is grown old. some well concealed piety, some just man happy in an ill fame, some youth ashamed of the favors of fortune, and impatiently casting them on other. Oh, I beg your pardon. Sorry about that. Not sure what happened. Sorry about this. I'm going to go back to the top. Sorry about that. Some fanatic who plants shade trees for the second and third generation, and orchards when he is grown old. Some well concealed piety, some just man happy in an ill fame, some youth ashamed of the favors of fortune, impatiently casting them on other shoulders. And these are the centers of society on which it returns for fresh impulses. Ooh. I apologize for the blip. I'm going to have to continue on in another video because I lost my place. I apologize for the blip. Bear with me, please.